Welcome to part 7 of the Dharma Yoga website series. In this video, we're going to add our media queries to give the website its responsiveness. So on the left here is how the website appears right now, and on the right that I'm going through is how it's going to look by the end of this video. Okay, so let's do away with the finished version. I'm actually going to leave this one open so we can watch the changes as we're adding the CSS. So go ahead and just open up the CSS file that we've been working on, and I'm going to add a note or a comment saying that the media queries are starting here. So you can just write media queries or really write whatever you like here. And then I'll just drop down and start the media query. So you want to write at media screen and in parentheses max width 740 pixels. So everything 740 pixels and below will switch to these media query styles that we give it with the CSS. So now you need to open and close swirly brackets, and then the styles will open and close themselves within these brackets. So let's get started from the top with our wrapper. So we're just going to add a little bit or take away a little bit of space at the very top. So there's not a whole lot of space between the phone number and the top of the website. So write div ID wrapper, and then let's take away some margin from the top. So write margin top -1%. Okay, so if you look at it on the phone, it's going to take a little bit of space away at the very top. And now let's drop down to our image slider. So the mobile version isn't going to have the previous and next buttons for the slider. But when you use your finger to swipe the images on a cell phone or on an iPad, they will move to the next slide. So we don't really need the buttons. So just write .slider for the slider class, and then bx wrapper for the bx slider, and then bx controls, open and close swirly brackets, and then we'll just tell it to display none for the controls of the previous and next buttons here. So display none, and if we refresh, it will take away the controls. So let's move down to the 1/3 class below, and we'll just tell the class to float left, and we'll give it a width of 100%. So if you remember in the full version it was something like 28%. And let's give that a margin of 4% top bottom, 0 left right. So this is going to take so that's going to be a big change for us, styling these 1/3 sections at 100%. So we have the icon sections up top, and then the image sections and footer taken care of now. So let's just make these icons a little smaller. So let's give it a font size of 355%, which is maybe 3/5 of the original size. So there we are. And we forgot to take away this address, or I forgot to. So let's go and add the callout section. So you want to write div ID callout, and we'll give that a width of 100%. So this contains the phone number and the address. So we're going to tell the address, the paragraph callout text, to display none. But first, let's give it some margin of 3% top, 0 right, 2% bottom, and 0 left. Okay. So now you want to reference the callout ID and then the paragraph text. So write callout P and display none to take away the address. Okay. Now let's move down to that heading 1 text here. So we're just going to make that a little smaller and take away some of the spacing. So you just want to write H1, or rather, we'll do the turquoise text first. So write font size 125%, and now it's a little smaller to match the icons. And let's take away some letter spacing. So let's give it a letter spacing of 2 pixels. Okay. Now let's style this H2 with the welcome class. So write h2.welcome, and we'll just make that font size a little smaller. So write 120%. And then refresh, and now it's a little smaller. And now we can drop down to the left column that contains the paragraph text and the H1 with the turquoise text. So let's give that a width of 100%. And now the image to the right will drop below it. We still have our button offsetting the width here. Okay, so let's give this sidebar a width of 100%. And refresh, and now there's the image taking up 100% of the width. So let's add some margin here too. So we want to add a little bit of margin to the bottom of the left column. So write 0 top, 0 right, 3% bottom, and 0 left. So now that's going to create some separation here. And it'll take care of the edges with the 0 margin. So let's add that to the sidebar too with the image. Just want to write margin 0. And then we can drop down and let's give the images a width of 100% of the screen, or of the wrapper. So refresh, and now the images are flush with the border of the website. Okay, so now let's give that image with the opacity in the sidebar class a little bit of a little less opacity, or more rather. So we'll move it from 0.7 to 0.9, and now it's gonna be a little brighter, similar to the picture below. Okay, so let's drop down to the paragraph text here. So let's just reference that with page callout, which is the sort of wrapper for the text and the button, and let's give that a width of 90% of the screen, and let's give it a minimum height of 160 pixels. So if we refresh, now there's enough space to contain the text and the button. We just need to align them. So first let's do the text. So you want to reference that with the page callout class, callout text, and let's give that a width of 90%, or 95% rather. Okay, so now let's just move the button underneath that text here. So you just want to write dot button holder for the button holder class, give it a width of 80%, and then let's give it some padding just of 1% all around. Okay, so now it's lining up pretty nicely for us here. So all we really have left are the giant social icons down here to take care of. So let's go ahead and just resize these icons. So you want to reference that with social, the social class, and then I. And then let's give it a font size of 175%. And this is our last style. So let's go ahead and refresh. And now we have the icons at the appropriate size. And that concludes the entire tutorial, you guys. I want to thank you for hanging out with me this entire time. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.